Welcome to Business Connection. I'm Liz Spencer. We have a fascinating guest in studio with us today. It's Dan Draz. He's the principal of Fraud Solutions. Now, Dan, we hear a lot about fraud, but I don't know if we know what fraud is.
Basically put, fraud is a deliberate misrepresentation designed to gain an information or financial edge over someone who, if they knew the truth, would have made an alternate decision. Fraud Solutions is a boutique fraud consulting entity. We do work with management teams, C-level executives, senior management to help them strengthen and prevent and detect organized patterns of criminal behavior.
Okay, so let's back that up. Fraud Solutions, your company is going to help us get all this understood. So give me an example of fraud in a business setting.
So there's a lot of fraud committed against businesses. The insurance industry is a perfect example. We all have insurance. We all have need to submit claims from time to time. What's common type of fraud is to pad or inflate an insurance claim because it's a big insurance company and I've paid premiums. We're inflating the what was stolen or the type of value, type of item that was stolen to get more money back from the insurance company.
Now, fraud kind of has lots of layers to it.
Right.
We were talking about that off camera. Tell me a little bit about how that works.
So usually there's a primary crime which then facilitates a secondary crime. So let's say someone steals your identity. That is a fraud in and of itself, but usually that's not the only crime that occurs. Once someone has stolen your identity, they then use that information to go commit second and third crimes or frauds, credit card fraud, mortgage loan, car loans, bank loans, something where they can derive a financial benefit from stealing your identity. Those are two separate crimes.
Wow, and sometimes it might be the crime of theft that might identify the fact that we've had our identity stolen.
Correct.
On the business level of things, because you're more B2B.
Correct.
What is the type of fraud that you see most in businesses?
I see a lot of individuals, again, like the insurance example, perpetrating crimes against businesses, but I also see businesses committing frauds against other businesses, business partners, alliances, people that you want to do business with, that you make representations to about your revenues, your operation, your employees, intellectual property that you have, where if you had told the person you were doing business with that you don't have any of those, they would have simply chosen to not do business with you.
And do you think, does fraud start out simple, like, oh, this isn't going to, if I pad my revenue gains just a little bit, and then snowball, or is it more deliberate?
It ranges anywhere from simple misrepresentation, which most people might not think is a big deal, all the way up to organized criminal rings driving billions of dollars in revenue from global locations offshore.
So nobody's immune to this.
No businesses are immune to this. All businesses have something that someone else wants, whether it's data, whether it's intellectual property, whether it's trade secrets, whether it's go-to-market strategies, customer lists. We all have something that someone else wants, so no one is immune to this. And that's one of the biggest problems. Everyone assumes that it won't happen here. And the reality is it happens everywhere.
Oh yeah, we all assume it won't happen to me.
Right, absolutely. And that's just a fallacy that we know is not true.
And how does your company Fraud Solutions help? If I'm a business and I think something's going on or I'm concerned, how do you help?
First thing we do is go in and do what's called a fraud risk assessment. We go in and we look at how you conduct business, where you conduct business, who your employees are, what demographics you're in, what products and services you have. And we look to see where your vulnerabilities are. How are you going to get attacked? Part of that is thinking like a criminal. Looking what would the criminal do to exploit your weaknesses. And then what we do once we have that diagnosis is go in and try and find the medical cure, if you will, put the plan in place to treat you so that you will be less victimized by fraud.
When people hire you, are they just usually shocked by what you find? Because I think I would just be shocked.
It's a range. They're either just absolutely shocked because they don't even know they have a problem and they're losing millions or tens of millions of dollars, or they know they have a problem and they're trying to mitigate it. It ranges anywhere from we don't think we have a problem to we know we have a problem to help, we have a massive problem, much like the Equifax breach, which just occurred, which is a very, very big problem, large scale.
How does fraud impact the end user? If somebody's committing a fraud, whether it be an employee or individual, how does the whole society impacted by this amount of
So
fraud?
a lot of people think this is a victimless crime. Hey, it's a big insurance company. I pay premiums. They can afford to pay me another $5,000. The reality is when those companies lose money, whether it's an insurance company, a bank, a telecom carrier, fraud is a pass-through cost, meaning when you lose money, you don't just eat it. Now suddenly you're passing that cost back on to consumers, and so it might cost the average insurance consumer an extra $500 to $700 a year because the insurance company is eating so much fraud.
So I honestly think we don't think about that when we're just because it's a big company and we're a little guy. And we think, well, they can just handle it.
We don't. And the reality is that these businesses are just swimming in a sea of fraud. I mean, there's so much fraud going on, and they have to detect those small amounts of fraud in hundreds or thousands of claims. That industry probably has 20% of total claims have some form of fraud in it.
Wow. So, Dan, I'm happy to meet you because if anything happened to me, I would be like, oh my God, I'm calling Dan. But who are your preferred businesses in this area? Who are you servicing?
So I do a lot of work in the financial services space because that's where a lot of transactional business occurs and there's a lot of revenue to lose. I also do work across a lot of other verticals because fraud is agnostic, means fraud targets any industry that has something that someone else wants. So that could be the telecom industry, it could be financial services, could be insurance, could be healthcare, could be banking. It really doesn't discriminate against the types of business that it attacks. So my preferred clients are anyone that feels like they have something of value to lose, that if someone defrauded them, that would put them at a business disadvantage.
Wow. So what would be the top 3 things you might advise a business of any size to think about when you're thinking about fraud protection?
There are a lot of things, but certainly 3 things are evident. One is train your employees. There's nothing better than frontline employees being on the lookout. They're your best bet to prevent fraud. They're aware, they understand what fraud is, and they're going to prevent it when they see an anomaly. Second thing is to have a fraud risk assessment done. It should be done even every year because as businesses grow, they need to take that step more often because change is evident, right? And when change happens, the business needs to grow with it. And lastly, once they've done that, really think about what do they need to do to prevent the kinds of frauds that are going to be committed against them before they've happened. Because a $4 million embezzlement might be the difference between profit and hanging the out of business sign on your front door.
Wow. And so, Dan, your company, Fraud Solution, can come in and help me do all of that.
Yeah, we do. Again, we're a B2B service, but we work businesses of all sizes. We work with businesses around the globe because, again, fraud doesn't stop at Naperville or Chicago or the U.S. border. Fraud happens globally, and we're in a global business economy, and that's where we specialize.
That's wonderful. Dan, thanks for stopping by and giving us a little bit of an education of things we need to think about.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And we'll be right back with more Business Connections. Stay tuned.